It's the voice of the one and only DJ Scream, letting you know that you are now in tune to the Casual Flex, where culture meets sports and casuals are welcome. Now here's your host, Phillip Dukes.
Yo, welcome to the Casual Flex. I am your host, Phillip Dukes, aka Dukes the Scoop. Catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. Hey man, Iron Bowl week. If you follow Auburn, if you follow Bama, if you follow SEC football, this is one of the biggest weeks of the year. I mean, rivalry week is already big, one in itself, but the Iron Bowl, bruh, like it's nothing like you've ever experienced if you haven't been a part of it. People literally fall out about the Iron Bowl. I mean, families break up. That whole license plate thing where they go house divided, like it's serious. Like that's a real thing when it comes to the Iron Bowl. So this year you've got Alabama team that I mean they have a slight outside chance of making the playoffs, and you've got a rejuvenated Auburn team coming off 2 straight victories. Off a better than expected or a better than a lot of people thought Western Kentucky team, and they handled them pretty handily. Great defense. Auburn looking to become bowl eligible, even though it looks like Auburn may be able to be one of those 5-win teams that gets into a bowl game. And if I'm a bowl selection committee, you almost have to pick Auburn with the way they've been showing up and the way Auburn travels, especially the way they've been supporting interim coach Cadillac Williams. So a very interesting Iron Bowl. Now, when it comes to the Iron Bowl this year, I think the most intriguing factor is a Bama team that's not been as dominant as they've been in the past few years. They've got 2 losses. LSU was a team that a lot of people deem as being beatable. Auburn definitely probably should have beat LSU. And if you do the whole 6 degrees of separation type deal, then it feels like that Auburn can play with Alabama. Even in years where Auburn isn't as talented as Alabama, it's the Iron Bowl. So you're going to have times where Bama is going to want to assert their dominance and Auburn may not have the horses to compete, and it'll get kind of ugly. Then you got times like last year where, Auburn still had a lot of talent up and down the roster, but maybe they didn't gel the way they should have or could have going into the season under a first-year head coach. And they made Auburn basically should have won the game last year in Jordan Hare against a really dominant Alabama team that probably, outside of a couple of injuries, they would have had a better shot at winning the national championship. And the only team that handled Georgia the way they did throughout the whole course of the season. This year is a little different. Well, it's a lot different. Brian Harsin is gone. Now you've got a Iron Bowl veteran. You've got an Iron Bowl legend. Cadillac Williams actually is the only I can't remember the last time a head coach actually played in the Iron Bowl. And drop it in the comments. Right now, my Auburn history is my Iron Bowl history leaves me at this point. But I'm trying to think the last time would it have been Suge Jordan maybe that a Auburn or Bama player actually led a team in the Iron Bowl. So with that being said, what do I think is going to happen? Well, I don't know. You just never know what's going to happen in the Iron Bowl. What I do think is you're going to see an Auburn team that's geeked up to play. Absolutely. I think this second lease on life for this season, you saw it in the Mississippi State game. You saw a lot of fight. You saw a whole lot of fight against in the win against Texas A&M, who, is a very talented team, but they're just broken up in so many places, which tells you about the importance of continuity, a team gelling, leadership, and a team believing, because there's no way a team as talented as Texas A&M should have a record as bad as they do. But Auburn took advantage and came out on top in that game. And also Auburn handled their business against Western Kentucky. They were only 5-point favorites, ended up beating them very, very handily. And also a team that, like Western Kentucky, where they like to throw the ball around a lot, in the same manner that Alabama does. So seeing Auburn being able to put up points, take the air out of the ball, and be dominant running the ball and scoring points running the ball as well and playing great defense against the pass first team, it kind of gives a little bit of hope going into this game. From the Bama part of it, they've got some injuries, but even when Bama has injuries, they've got 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. And with the amount of depth that they do have, you can't just count on one person being injured and think that you're going to beat Bama because one person is out. Now, this is a Bama team that I do feel is susceptible to the run. I do feel like teams are attacking Will Anderson. They're sending the guard and the tackle running that way. I think a lot of times last year teams were more so the boogeyman. They tried to go away from him completely. And I think that if Auburn can figure out how to put a body on Will Anderson and allow him to be the catalyst for which way you're going to go based off your scheme. And what I mean by that is if you take him out of the equation and then you leave the rest of your guys to attack the rest of the Bama defense who may not be as talented. And Auburn's going to run the ball. Now, one thing I have seen out of Auburn is the aggression up front. And a couple of years ago, I used to always say that, Auburn had 5 guards across the offensive line. Everybody was playing out of position, and they would be well suited in a power game, running the ball. And I think that the scheme that's being ran right now, I mean, it has to be the same, pretty much the same scheme that Harsin was running, but I think it's how they're running it. I think Auburn has been really aggressive, getting to the edge. Their perimeter run game has been what has been enabling them to get plays off, like the halfback pass that we saw last week from Jarquez Hunter to I think that was Corey Moore, or I forgot who caught that ball. But being able to set a base, being able to have your base offense, and you know what, we have an identity. We are a smash mouth perimeter running team. So when you can run the ball towards the perimeter, it sets you up to be able to gas you up the middle because teams will start to shift their offense to the side that they think you're running to. They'll start to get wider. And as they begin to get wide in order to kind of prevent Auburn's offense from getting to the edge, that allows them to be susceptible up the middle. So when you start to have that 23 blast type motion, you start to go straight up the gut. You're running off the back end of the guard, running between guard and tackle. A lot of those blast plays, you get a lot more successful. Another thing I think is going to be big to watch is going to be Derek Hall and Kobe Wooden going out with a bang. I think that when those two guys are running on all cylinders, there's nobody in the country that has a better duo along the defensive line than Auburn does. They haven't gotten a lot of credit nationally, but when you go look at the numbers, you look at the stats, you look at the games, you look at what they're doing, bro, these guys really handle their business. And so this is one of those things where I feel like Auburn along the defensive line could take advantage of a Alabama offensive line that's big. They've got guys, but they haven't been playing really well together. This is not the same dominant Bama offensive line that we're used to. And I think that for one, if Auburn does have an advantage, I think it's the defensive line towards the offensive line, especially those two players. Now, there are more guys. Bama does have good backers. Bama does have a very, very athletic secondary. There's a lot of things that Alabama does do well. So let's not act like Alabama isn't one of the best teams in the country. Absolutely. But one thing that we do have to realize is this is not the Bama of old. This is Bama. Last year, Nick Saban said he was in a rebuilding year, and I get it. But now this really feels more like a rebuilding year for Alabama. And I feel like they're really ripe for the picking. And I don't want to make a prediction. It's going to be a hard-fought game regardless. I do feel like top to bottom, Alabama is the more talented team as far as just overall talent. But I feel like the fight that Auburn has, being led by Iron Bowl legend, fighting for a Cadillac to get the job. I think these guys know that if Cadillac wins this game, if Auburn wins this game, how do you not make him the head coach? Let's talk about that for a minute. We heard the Lane Kiffin stuff. Hugh Freeze. All kind of names. The names that are coming up in the Auburn search are so crazy sometimes. James Franklin, Bill Belichick, Kyle Shanahan. What's the coach of the dude from the Water Boy? I forgot, man. Bobby Boucher's coach. He might come over and be offensive coordinator. Like, every name has been thrown out in the book. But the name that I think that could be the dark horse, especially with a win, is Cadillac Williams. I think that how do you not give Cadillac the job if he beats Bama with this team? That just goes to show you about how important leadership at the top, having guys that believe in you and guys willing to play above and out of their minds for somebody and a cause that they believe in. And I think that is also going to be a really important aspect of this year's Iron Bowl. Does Cadillac deserve the job if he beats Alabama? I say yes. If Lack beats Alabama, you have to give him this job. You have to make him the head coach of Auburn University. I don't care what you say. Oh, he doesn't have the resume. Man, what has a resume done for anybody? All a resume does is make somebody feel more comfortable in the moment about a hire that's made. Oh, well, what about what else do you want somebody to do to take a broken team, rebuild them in season, be an Auburn man, and win an Iron Bowl too? If he doesn't win the Iron Bowl, okay, I get it. Hire the best guy. But if Cadillac wins the Iron Bowl, you got to give him the job. Absolutely have to. And one thing I continue to see is I think sometimes people don't realize this is Auburn University and we love it. We do. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There are names that are being thrown out and people are just like, oh, no, it's not good enough for Auburn. Look, no disrespect. Absolutely. No disrespect to anybody. But, dog, we just had our last three coaches were Gene Chizik, Gus Malzahn, and Brian Harsin, right? No disrespect to these guys. But where do we get off acting like, we like Kyle Shanahan should lead the 49ers and come coach Auburn for $3 million a year? Like, come on, dog. Like, let's be realistic. This is a good opportunity for a good coach. And with the right coach, we've got the staff. We've got the facilities in place now. You've got NIL money. You've got a lot of things that are attractive. But until you can continuously beat Bama on a consistent basis, Auburn is still little brother in Alabama right now. The next coach can change that. The next coach can change that, but it hasn't been changed yet. So until then, like let's temper our expectations and support whoever comes in. If it's Cadillac Williams, we got to support him. We got to. If they get Lane Kiffin, you got to support him. If they get Hugh Freeze, you got to support him. As Auburn fans, you got to support the guy who's in the captain's chair. If it turns out to be a hideously bad hire, hopefully John Cohen has already shown that if he makes a bad hire, a la Joe Moorhead at Mississippi State, he will correct it expeditiously. They won the Egg Bowl, and he still fired the man and went and got Mike Leach because he knew it wasn't a fit. So I trust John Cohen to make the right decision. Moving forward, let's talk about these Falcons. Dirty Birds. So let me just show you something. And I took a lot of flack because I talked about falconing. And that's when the Falcons are up and the Falcons are doing their thing and everything's going well. And something weird happens that usually wouldn't happen. A freak accident, somebody dropping the ball without touching them, getting a holding call on the 20-yard line and knocks you out of field goal range right in the Super Bowl, losing 28-3. I can go on and on about falconing. But one thing I'm going to say about these Falcons, and being a Falcon fan, you got to be a Falcon fan to talk about them. So as Falcon fans, we reserve the right to talk about our Falcons because they are Falcons. They are ours. We put in the blood, sweat, tears, high blood pressure, cholesterol, anxiety, stress, Xanax popping, perk popping, alcohol use, abuse, Hennessy drinking, sad songs, overeating, eating chocolate, yelling at folks who ain't got nothing to do with the game that just happened. We endure all that as Falcons fans. So we reserve the right to talk about them when we get ready. But we also reserve the right as Falcons fans to pep your ass out if you talk about the Falcons in front of us. That's what we do. See, we can talk about the Falcons because we are real Falcons fans. We really from the A. And we done seen all of this. But you can't. And I really think that's like the mentality of all Falcons fans. But moving forward, the Falcons come up with a big win against the Bears. And if you see this, even though I was talking about Falcon in last week, hey, Faison, roll this clip. Take the Falcons over the Bears. Take the points too. The Falcons going to cover the spread this week. Yeah, see? Told you. Now, even though I was disappointed in the win, and even though I identified falconing, I still knew that the Falcons were going to beat the Bears, and the Falcons were going to cover the spread. The spread was 2.5. They won. They covered the spread. Look, if you listen to me, then you got yourself some money. Where do the Falcons go from here? We know that these Falcons are limited, right? That's fine. The Falcons are getting valuable experience. They're learning how to win. They're overcoming adversity. They're buying into the system. You got young guys stepping up. You've got guys who were young. They're no longer with the team. Like the Falcons are setting their core pieces up now. You got a really good perimeter game when it comes to what you got a Kyle Pitts. You got Drake London. They're set up well in the future for having some passing targets. You got an offensive line that's been playing like that. We're running the ball really well. Even though we're playing with the same offensive line that people were saying was sorry for the last 25 years, and we still aren't excelling in pass protection, okay, but running the ball, being very intentional about running the ball, setting yourself up in schemes and different situations in order for you to be successful it's been almost like a godsend for Arthur Smith to be able to mold his offense into what he wants and how he sees fit. Even a Cordero Patterson, who's just pretty much a journeyman, who's found a real home in Atlanta and took less money to stay in Atlanta because he knew he found a home and he found somewhere that was going to be able to take advantage of his talent as much in the same way as Shanahan has done with Deebo Samuel out there in San Francisco. So Cordero Patterson, a converted wide receiver, to be your leading rusher and doing a damn good job of it. Plus, the man went back. Look, this is why I like Cordero Patterson. CP, man, dog, fumbles the ball, boom. All the momentum goes to the Bears. The Bears score a touchdown. The very next kickoff, hey, look, hey, y'all, my bad. It's almost like he was like, hey, my bad, y'all. I got this. Took off to the crib. Falcons haven't had a kickoff return, and I don't think it was 9-10 years. But we got one. And, you know, it was a good day to be a Falcons fan. Really good atmosphere inside of the Benz. So, man, shout out to the Falcons, man, because when you down, you know, we feel down. And we're gonna talk. But when you up, we gotta celebrate you. So, man, one time for the Falcons, man, great win today. Let's talk about the Hawks while we're here. Another A-Town team. You know, it's going to be, you know, I got to talk about what I know about. And the Hawks, I really, really like the rookie Adrian Griffin. If you haven't seen him, he's about 6'7", 6'8", shoot the lights out the ball, coach's son, plays good defense, a traditional classic 3-and-D player. He's young. He fits in well, a really smart player, and he had the game-winning shot on a hell of a play call from Nate McMillan. The Hawks were down. I think maybe 3-4 seconds left on the clock. No timeouts, had to go the length of the floor, and they did. I mean, 2 or 3 great passes. Trae Young with an almost half-court alley-oop to Adrian Griffin, who was wide open, who hits the layup, and Hawks win. Right now, the Hawks sit in 3rd place, I believe, in the East. Boston's 1, I think Philly is 2. And the Hawks have a real shot at going all the way this year. And I think right now, I think it's at least Eastern Conference Finals or bust for the Hawks. I think that at the trade deadline, I think the Hawks will be aggressive again. If the Hawks are missing one thing that I want to see from them, I think they need one more big body because in the playoffs, when playoff basketball starts to happen, you got to have somebody that can knock Joel Embiid off the block. Because this year with the Sixers, now a couple of years ago, it didn't matter as much because they didn't have that other threat that the other threat on the perimeter was Ben Simmons. Well, now that threat is James Harden, and now that threat is a more mature and a coming into his own Tyrese Maxey. So you got to have somebody who can kind of contain Embiid without doubling, because if you don't, if not, and I didn't say stop, I just said contain. But if you don't, Tyrese Maxey is gonna put you in a blender. And then after he gets done, then Harden gonna have you. And Harden is playing inspired basketball, and he's doing a really good job of distributing that thing. So I think the Hawks really probably do want to try to fortify that front line. But outside of that, they got one of the nastiest backcourts in the East, in the NBA period, with Trae Young and DJ Murray. Really happy to see how these guys are playing together. Trae Young's averaging like 27 and 9 assists. Murray's playing tough defense. Looking like a real goon in the backcourt. Like, he's a guy that, almost has that Russell Westbrook attitude, but he's a little more scary than Russell Westbrook to me, just on the strength of, man, like, he looks like if Russell Westbrook gets mad at you, I feel like, yeah, all right, like he might, get mad at you on the court or something like that. Like, y'all might have to fight on the court. Man, Murray, bro, Murray looks like, man, if he's mad at you on the court, like, bro, like, man, you might have to watch your back in the parking lot. Like, it might be some folks already out there. Like, he already lucky plugged in. I ain't seen him outside in the A yet, and I probably don't want to, because at the end of the day, man, no telling what my boy got going on. But I love it for the Hawks. The Hawks needed that. They needed that enforcer. You usually don't have backcourt enforcers, but the Hawks have one. If you can get a tough guy in the front court, I think the Hawks can go super far. But yeah, man. And you know what? Let me give a special shout out to the Cowboys. Yeah, I know the same Cowboys that, I talk bad about them, and they always wear the same outfit, and I talk bad about my cousins. I ain't even talk bad about my cousin Chip. I just included him in it because he loved the Cowboys, and I was talking mess because he's from Franklin, but at Franklin, Tennessee. But you know what, Chip, I'm going to let you be from Franklin, Texas today, man. You know why? Because the Cowboys did their thing, dog. Man, the Cowboys are starting to look like one of those teams that have enough the Cowboys, I think they can go all the way. You hear it here first, folks. I think, well, it's not first, but the first time you'll ever hear me say something like this, and, you've heard it so far, but the Cowboys are a legit Super Bowl contender. Why, Dukes? They have everything you need. They have a plus player in every position group, every last one of them. And there are not a lot of teams in the NFL that can say that. And every team in the NFL that has a plus player at each position group, think about it. There is at least one player in each position group for the Cowboys that could start for more than half of the NFL, probably about 75% of the NFL. And when you go look at groups like that, when you look at an entire roster and you say, well, dang, how many other teams would want this guy to start over a guy that they have? I mean, the Cowboys in the secondary, that safety is super good. You got Diggs out there who's been balling. Michael Parsons can start for everybody in the league, probably besides, I don't know, maybe TJ Watt, maybe. I mean, depending on who you ask, yeah. Marcus Lawrence is still active. You still got CeeDee Lamb is coming into his own. You got two of the best running backs, probably my favorite 1-2 punch in the NFL in the backfield, in Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott. And today you saw what they can do. 4 touchdowns between the two. Dak Prescott getting off. Dalton Schultz is a really good tight end. The offensive line is above average. And I think that the Cowboys, as long as they don't mess it up, and the Cowboys, now, the only difference between the Cowboys and the Falcons, the Cowboys got rings. It hurts me to say that. But the Cowboys be cowboying too. So the Cowboys could really mess this up. But right now, they balling. And I'm really, really excited to see how that NFC East shakes out. The NFC East is the best division in football. I've been saying it. The Redskins now, that defense and ain't even got Chase Young back yet. Redskins, see what the Eagles are continuing to do. Man, the Giants took a tough L, but the Giants are going to be there. Top to bottom, man, I haven't seen the NFC East like this since the early 2000s, and it's going to be really exciting to see how that shakes out. But I think the two Super Bowl contenders from the NFC are coming out of the East, and that's going to be the Eagles and, hey, man, face it, dog, the Cowboys. Cowboys are really kind of like that this year. But yeah, man, that's my time. Look, make sure you hit the button down there. Go down there, hit like and subscribe. Please do that for me. Let's grow together. You know what I mean? For sure. But until next time, if I don't see you before then, happy Thanksgiving. But I'm pretty sure we'll holler before then. But and happy holidays to everybody. Dukes the Scoop. I'm out.